It is 10:32. We are back on the record after a 10-minute break. Mr. McClure, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Okay, and which witness did you have a question for?
I'm going to have a question for the landman. I think I can just make a request of Mr. Savage for the geologist.
Okay, sounds good. So, Mr. Savage, who's your landman?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, the landman is Tim Prout.
Would you turn your camera on, Mr. Prout?
Yes, sir. Well, it's not working here.
Mr. Prout, if you need some time to get your camera working, we can go into recess on this case and then come back after the next case. Does that work for you?
I think it's turning on.
I think you're right. Do you have a little slider over the actual camera on your laptop that maybe you need to slide?
No, sir.
No cover?
No, sir.
All right, well, we can't see you, so that's not working.
Okay.
Why don't you, we're starting to run late. Why don't you get your camera working and we'll come back to you. We'll go in recess on this case. And I'm going to call case 25073, 74, and 75. Interest of appearance, please.
Yes, Jackie McLean with Hinkle Shaner on behalf of Permian Resources.
Thank you. Are you presenting all three together?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know of any other parties who have entered?
There are no other parties.
Feel free.
Thank you. In case numbers 25073, 25074, and 25075, Permian Resources seeks to pull all uncommitted interest from the top of the Bone Spring Formation to the base of the second Bone Spring interval only due to a depth severance in the acreage. And Permian Resources seeking to pull the entirety of sections 14 and 13, Township 20 South, Range 28 East in Eddy County, with the exception of the south half, north half of section 13. And that acreage will not be stranded because it is currently producing acreage with another well. And we've included that in the testimony as well. And these spacing units will be dedicated to the Wombat 13 FedCom 121H, 123H, and 124H wells. We filed amended exhibits at the request of Mr. McClure yesterday. And these exhibits include the self-affirmed statements of landman Ryan Curry and geologist Christopher Canton, both of whom have previously testified. As set out in Exhibit C for each case, notice letters were timely sent on December 12th, and notice was published on December 19th. With that, I ask that exhibits be admitted in case numbers 25073 through 25075, and that the cases be taken under advisement.
Thank you. Are there any objections? The exhibits are admitted into evidence. Mr. McClure, any questions on these three cases?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I have no questions for any of these three cases.
Excellent. And you said that you filed an amended exhibit packet. Freya, would you take out anything that conflicts?
Yes.
Thank you very much. These cases are taken under advisement. Thank you. Mr.
you.
Prout, do we have your camera on?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, may I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
So those witnesses who have to call in, is there a procedure for swearing them in and having them answer questions with just audio, or do you need to see?
I like to see them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I'm the judge of credibility.
Yes, sir.
As is Mr. McClure, and it's very hard to judge someone's credibility when you can't see them.
Yes, understood.
So, Mr. Prout, we still don't have your camera on. Do you want to try to join with your phone or something that has a camera? Oh, there you are. Okay. I see you, sir. Would you unmute your microphone so I can hear you?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Would you state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, Tim Prout, TIMPROUT.
Thank you. And have you been previously qualified as an expert before this division?
Yes, sir.
In what field?
Land?
Okay. Mr. McClellan?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, was that me you were asking, you were
Yes,
talking
sir.
to?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. Mr. Prout, I guess I don't know if you have access to your screen or not, but I was wondering if I can draw your attention to page 36 of 131. This page has a table with, I think, the overall ownership of the proposed unit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, below that table, it has a statement, uncommitted working interest owners seeking to compulsory pool. Do you see the statement I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is this just referring to the higher table where the individual tracks are deviated out and some working interest owners are listed as uncommitted and some are listed as committed?
Yes, sir. The only working interest owner that's listed as committed is WPX.
Okay, so WPX is asking to force pool pretty much every other working interest other than itself. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you briefly rehash what Mr. Savage was referring to when he was talking about XTL Holdings and Reed and Stevens?
Yes, sir. We sent the letters via certified mail, as we usually do, to the last known address that we were aware of. And when we discovered that the letters had been returned, we reached out to both parties. Reed and Stevens had been acquired by Permian Resources, and we were unaware. And XTO was actually aware of the proposals. I'm not sure why it was returned, but both parties waived any protest. And between sending the letters in compliance with the rules and the intended recipients waiving, we believe that the notice issue was resolved and no longer an issue.
Okay, so just to confirm, I have a handle on the situation. Essentially, the written notice was provided to the incorrect address for both Reed and Stevens and XTO Holdings. Is that correct?
Correct. It was the last known address we had.
And to cure notice, your intent was to provide or have them provide you a waiver of protest?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prout. I have no further questions for this witness, but Mr. Savage, the cross section within the geology exhibits, it's on page 64. Are you with me, Mr. Savage?
Yes, sir.
Can we resubmit an amended exhibit that has the API numbers for each of these wells included?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Savage. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner. I have no further questions, and I think we can take the case under advisement.
Perfect. Thank you.
Or, excuse me, I mean after the amended exhibit packet. I apologize.
I knew what you meant. Thank you very much. Okay, so Mr. Savage, when will you be able to file the amended hearing packet?
Monday would be helpful.
Monday, that's the 13th, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so close of business on the 13th, 25058. The record will remain open until that time, and then we will take it under advisement.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Prout, for your participation. I'm now going to call three Mewborn cases, 25109, 25110, and 25111.
Good morning, afternoon, Mr. Hearing Examiner Paula Vance with the Santa Fe Office of Holland and Hart on behalf of Mewborn.
Thank you. Are there any other parties that you know of?
I believe that COG entered an appearance in our last case.
Ms. Vance, do you know who, the name of the council?
I believe it is either Miss Ryan or Miss Hatley. If you give me just one moment to double check.
Online.
Oh,
Sorry
there we
about
go.
that. ConocoPhillips entered an appearance in this case, but we are not objecting to it proceeding.
Okay, and I didn't quite get your entry of appearance. Would you state it for the record?
Beth Ryan on behalf of COG Operating.
In which case?
I'm sorry, is this case 25111?
That's one of the three cases I called.
Yes, so just 25111, not the others.
Okay. All right, Ms. Vance?
Yes, and I'm going to present the case number 25109 and 25110 first, and then I'll do that third case last.
Okay.
And just so you know, our landman has not previously testified, so I don't know if we've included a copy of her resume and if you'd like to swear her in now.
Let's wait till after and see if Mr. McClure has any questions. And normally I would get them qualified for the future, but we're running late and we have a longer case coming up, so.
Sure. Okay. So I'll start with case number 25109. Mewburn seeks to pull in the uncommitted mineral interests in the Bone Spring underlying a 1,572.79 acre, more or less horizontal well spacing unit. And this is a non-standard spacing unit, but Mewburn has applied for an NSP administratively, so through a separate process. And for this particular case, the acreage includes the south half equivalent of irregular section 7, as well as the entirety of irregular sections 18 and 19. And that is in Township 19 South, Range 36 East, in Lee County, New Mexico. And for that particular spacing unit, Mewburn seeks to dedicate the initial or the proposed Black Pearl 719 FedCom 526H and 528H. And then in case 25110, Mewburn seeks to pool the uncommitted mineral interests, again, in the Bone Spring Formation. Both are the same pool, which is the Pearl Bone Spring South, and the pool code is 49685. And in this particular case, it's a 1,574.79 acre, more or less horizontal well spacing unit. And it is comprised of the entirety of irregular section 31, and that's Township 18 South, Range 36 East, and then the entirety of, excuse me, of irregular section 6, and then the north half of irregular section 7, and then that's in Township 19 South, Range 36 East, and that's in Lee County as well. So basically, case number 25110 is the north, and then case number 25109 is the south. So they butt up against each other. And then with that second case, Mewburn seeks to initially dedicate the Flying Dutchman 731 Statecom 526H and 528H to that spacing unit. We have included in our cases the hearing packets, a copy of the application, the compulsory pooling checklist, as well as the self-affirmed statement of landman Peyton Warren. Again, she has not previously testified, and we have included her resume. And then we've also included the statement of our geologist, Charles Crosby, who has previously testified before the division, and his credentials have been accepted as a matter of record. So with Ms. Warren, we have included her statement, which is Exhibit C. All of the requisite land exhibits are included. And then Mr. Crosby, his statement is Exhibit D, along with all the required geology exhibits. In these cases, Mr. Crosby did not observe any faulting pinch outs or other geologic impediments to the drilling of these wells. And then we have included my self-affirmed statement, which is Exhibit E, and includes a sample copy of the notice letter, which is dated on December 20th, 2024, which times out today. And I did notice, because I calculated it, our notice of publication is not timely. And so it was published on December 24th, 2024. So I would just ask that the record stay open to allow for the notice of publication to be perfected. I believe we do need to rely on it. I won't take up the division's time, but I don't believe all of the notice was delivered. So yes, we'll need to rely on that notice of publication. So I would just ask that the record stay open, and possibly, if the division would allow it, for us to come back at the January 23rd docket to be able to perfect notice. And with that, unless there are any questions, I would ask that the exhibits and sub-exhibits be admitted into the record and that these cases be taken under advisement at this time.
Are there any objections? Not hearing any, I am admitting the exhibits in these two cases into evidence. Mr. McClure, any questions on these two cases?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, I have no questions for these two cases, nor the third case, but I will have requests for each of the cases. And understanding that the applicant asked to continue these cases due to notice, I wonder if maybe we should give her an opportunity to reevaluate whether she believes public notice was published in a timely manner.
I believe that's what I had discussed, Mr. McClure, which is we recognize that our two publications in these particular cases, which are 25109 and 25110, were published on December 24th, so they are not timely. And so we're just asking for the record to stay open, and we'll come back on the January 23rd docket to perfect notice at that point. But we recognize that it's not timely.
Well, Ms. Vance, I think you misunderstood what I was getting at. Are you sure that the 24th would be untimely? What date did you calculate as being required for public notice for this hearing?
I use a little date calculator on the internet, and so
I'll calculate it. It's okay, Ms. Vance. So Mr. McClure, we don't count the 24th. That's the day it was sent. We don't count the 25th, and we're not going to count the 1st. We also don't count weekends. So we have 26, 27, 30, 31, 2, 3. So that's 6 days. The 3rd is the 6th day. And then we have 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 would be today. That's my
okay.
month.
I have tomorrow when I use the little date calculator thing.
It's fine. We're going to come back anyway. Well, I mean, so Mr. McClure, are you suggesting that it is timely, even sending it out on the 24th?
I mean, I believe it is, but it'd be, I would, my review would conclude that the 24th was timely, yes.
All right. So, Ms. Vance, there's no one to object to it. And the division seems to think the 24th fits. So
we're perfectly fine with that.
So, Mr. McClure, what do you want Ms. Vance to amend in these two cases?
Ms. Vance, the cross-section within the geology exhibit for both of these first two cases includes a small map that's overlaying it. I have the page numbers if that would be beneficial to you, but if you're already familiar with what I'm referring to.
I'm there and I can see it, and that's easy to remove.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vance. If we can submit an amended exhibit packet with those, with that map removed from both of these exhibit packets.
Not a problem.
So,
Thank
Ms. Vance, how long do you need to amend the exhibit packets in both of these cases?
I can get that done this afternoon.
How about tomorrow? We'll give you a close of business on the 10th as a deadline for these two cases.
Sure. I'm just checking because I had to do this. I can remove it right now. I can send it to you, to the division this afternoon.
But you haven't, well, you still have, but you need a cover letter. So, let's just make
Tomorrow is
tomorrow
fine.
at 5 o'clock to give you the time you need. And then Freya will take out any other exhibit packets so that we don't get confused. So we are in recess on these two cases. We did not qualify your expert this time. So next time they appear, we'll get them qualified, okay?
Okay. And can I go over my last case with you,
Please.
the Ziki?
Are you not handling Oxy?
No, Mr.
Mr. Rankin?
Mr. Rankin, my counterpart, he will be doing that case.
Now, he's not here now. Is he here or, oh, he is here.
He's here.
You saw him. Will you let him know we're going to start Oxy in just a couple of minutes?
You want to do it?
I don't think so. I mean, it depends on, because that, he has to go back to the office. I can hold out. If you can hold out, Mr. McClure will be done. So we don't have to worry about Mr. McClure's feeding habits. And when it comes to Miss Chance, I mean, Miss Chance, if you want to leave or grab something while we're doing the hearing, you can always end the recording after you come back later. We'll just have some dead space. That's all. All right. So that way we're not torturing everyone at once. Your witnesses are available for the Oxy case?
Yes, it's the same two witnesses.
Well, isn't there
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
reservoir
Did you say,
engineer?
I'm sorry, you said Oxy?
For the Oxy case, will your witnesses be, are they there?
I believe, I saw Mr. Janacek, he was on there, and I saw a couple of the other folks.
Good.
So I believe they're all there.
So we'll get to that. So why don't
Okay.
you present your last case, Ms. Vance,
Okay.
as briefly as possible?
As briefly as possible. Okay, so, again, Paul,
I can't hear you. I know it is. I know it is. I know. That's why we're trying to get to it. Go ahead, Ms. Vance.
So in case number 25111, Uburn seeks an order approving a 640 acre, more or less overlapping, non-standard horizontal well spacing unit. And this is in the Bone Spring formation, and the pool is the Benson Bone Spring, and the pool code is 5200. And that is underlying the north half of section 12, and that's in Township 19 South, Range 30 East. And then we have in addition to all of irregular section 7 in Township 19 South, Range 31 East. And again, that's in Eddy County, New Mexico. And then pooling all the uncommitted interest owners in that acreage. And in this case, Mewburn seeks to dedicate this spacing unit to the Ziki cell 12-7 FedCom 611H and then 613H. As I noted, we requested approval for the overlapping spacing unit. However, we sent out notice, which we've included a copy of along with the tracking information. No objections were received, and so we would just ask to drop that request from the application. It's not necessary at this point. In this case, we've included a copy of the application, provided the compulsory pooling checklist, as well as the self-affirm statement of landman Peyton Warren and geologist Charles Crosby. Ms. Warren's statement is Exhibit C. Again, I've included a diagram of the overlap along with all the requisite land exhibits. And then Mr. Crosby's statement is Exhibit D along with all the required geology exhibits. In this case, Mr. Crosby did not observe any faulting, pinch outs, or other geologic impediments to the horizontal drilling of this well. for these wells. And then lastly is my self-affirmed statement of notice, along with a sample copy of my, of the letter that went out, which was timely. It went out on December 20th, 2024. And then our, the affidavit of notice of publication is also included. And that time, that was sent out on December 21st, 2024. And unless there are any questions, I would ask that this case and the exhibits and sub-exhibits be admitted into the record and that this case be taken under advisement, noting that if there is a diagram or a map over the cross-section, we'll remove that and I will refile as revised exhibits for Mr. McClure.
Are there any objections to the exhibits? Not hearing any, your exhibits are admitted into evidence. Mr. McClure, any questions on 25111?
Mr. Hearing Examiner, actually, a question did come up once after Ms. Vance's presentation, but she can probably address it because it's related
Okay.
to our presentation.
All right, what is the question?
Ms. Vance, you referenced that the overlapping spacing unit is no longer a concern. Can you rehash what you said about that?
Sure, we provided notice, which is, first of all, if you go to page 17 of 51, you'll see a diagram that I put together that shows the proposed spacing unit along with the existing spacing units. And then if you go to page, let me see here.
Ms. Vance, if I can
you-
interrupt you, maybe I misheard you. Did you say that that you're no longer requesting the overlapping spacing unit or not?
We're no longer requesting approval because we haven't gotten any objections, so there's no need. I mean, if you, that's typically how we've treated it. If there's no objection, then there's no requirement, there's no need to request for approval. But, if that needs to be stated in the order, that's fine. But again, there's been no objections received from any of the affected parties.
No, Ms. Vance, I wasn't referring to anything on that. I was just, when you were going through your presentation, I misunderstood and I thought that you meant that there was no longer going to be an overlapping spacing unit. But now I understand where you're coming from. So I have no further questions, but I will request that you resubmit go ahead, Ms. Vance.
I was going to say, I don't believe that this structural cross-section had a map over it, but you tell me if you're seeing something and I'm, again, happy to fix it.
Ms. Vance, yeah, this case has a different request, I guess, from myself, not the cross-section. I will request a amended compulsory pooling administrative checklist. The reason being that section Section 7 has an additional pool included within it. That being the Hackberry Bone Spring North.
Can I, oh, please go ahead.
Yeah, the pool code is 97056.
And you said that is 97056
That is correct, Ms. Vance.
in irregular section 7.
That is correct. All of section 7 is that pool. And then the pool you currently have on the compulsory pooling checklist is in section 12. So that pool is correct for section 12.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Ms. Vance, when do you need, how much time do you need to submit?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So we will set a deadline of close of business on January 10, and then we will take the case under advisement once we get your amended exhibit packet, and Freya will remove the conflicting exhibit packet.
Perfect.
Okay. Are you done, Ms. Vance, with that case?
I sure am.
Excellent. So thank you for your participation, Ms. Vance. Have a nice day. I am now calling the last case on our docket. This is Oxy USA. It was number 24 on our docket. It is case number 25054.
Good morning, Mr. Examiner. Adam Rankin with the Santa Fe Office of Holland and Hart, appearing on behalf of the applicant in this case. We have 3 witnesses to present today. My estimation is that the presentation of these witnesses will take probably about 2 hours in total because they have to present their testimony.
Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Mr. Rankin, it's my understanding that our 2 technical examiners do have questions for your witnesses and have reviewed all of the exhibits presented. Why do you feel as though you need 2 hours to present your case?
Well, Mr. Examiner, I guess my thought would be it's possible, I suppose, that we could just have the examiners ask questions of our witnesses. However, there has been no testimony submitted, written testimony. So all we have filed so far is the application and a supplemental exhibit packet.
There's no self-affirming statement.
There are no self-affirmed statements.
Well, I think we could, depending on the technical examiners and what they want to hear, and what I'll do is I'll take 5 minutes and talk to both of them and ask them how detailed of a summary of each of the 3 witnesses they would like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for you?
That works for me.
All right. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to make a brief opening statement. Let's get the exhibits admitted into evidence first.
Okay.
What do you have for us?
So, Mr. Examiner, last week we filed in preparation for today's hearing, an exhibit packet. The exhibit packet contains OXI exhibits A through D.
Mm-hmm.
Exhibit A is a copy of the application that was filed. The application has a cover pleading, summarizing what the applicant is seeking in this case. Exhibit B is a updated set of exhibits and additional exhibits that were filed, supplementing what was in the application and providing some additional exhibits, including the resumes of 2 of OXI's witnesses. Exhibit C is a notice affidavit that was sent out by certified mail, notice affidavit, which reflects that we have provided notice to each of the affected parties within a half mile of the proposed injection. It has a letter that we sent out by certified mail along with a list of all the parties affected under the division's rules, showing that we have done so and done so timely. And Exhibit D is the affidavit of publication showing that we published notice of the application in a newspaper of general circulation in the area and did so timely. So at this time, Mr. Examiner, I would move the admission of exhibits A through D into the record.
Okay, are there any objections? Not hearing any, your exhibits are all admitted into evidence. Mr. Rankin, did you say that this is an amended exhibit packet?
No, we only filed one exhibit
Okay,
packet.
okay.
But what we did was we attached additional exhibits that were in addition to what was filed with the application. So the application had a whole
I
series
see.
of material
Okay.
and support, and the supplemental filing, well, the filing that we had of the exhibits had some additional material as well.
Thank you. If it's acceptable to you, why don't we get all 3 of your witnesses sworn in? Let's get them all qualified as experts if they're not already experts. And can you tell me if they are all previously qualified experts?
They're not all. 1 is and 2 are not.
Perfect. So we'll deal with that issue. And then why don't you think in your head between now and when we get to the question, how much time you feel each witness needs to summarize testimony that you feel would be helpful to orient the technical examiners, because they're all very familiar with the exhibits. Also, I'm going to ask you if you want your 3 witnesses to appear as a panel.
I think I would do what the examiner's preference is
Okay.
on that point.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think the examiners would like the witnesses to appear as a panel.
Yeah.
But the examiners also have the ability to direct questions to specific witnesses. And if that witness doesn't have the answer, they can always say, I'm not the right witness or something of that nature.
That's fine.
All right.
I can give a brief summary of what we're requesting here, and I think with the grace of the examiners, we can walk through the exhibits quickly with each witness and make sure that they're summarizing the high
Okay.
points.
Okay,
And then
That's fair.
Turn over each of the witnesses as a panel to the division for cross-examination.
that seems like a good way to proceed. So let me think if there's anything else I wanted to do. Let's get all three witnesses on the screen at this time. I see two people. There we go. Okay. All right. Would you all raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
I do.
Okay, I heard three I do's. Now, okay, would you each state and spell your name for the record? Let's start with Miss Noonan.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Noonan, spelled Stephanie
Okay, and Mr. Janacek?
Yes. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Examiner?
Very well.
My name is Stephen Janacek, and that is spelled Stephen. Last name Janacek.
And finally, the last witness.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Eduardo Seoane. Last name Seoane. First name Eduardo, Eduardo.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have the witnesses sworn in now. Who is I think it's Mr. Janacek. Your name is familiar to me, so I think you've been qualified as an expert previously. In
Yes,
what
sir.
field? In what field?
In petroleum engineering.
You're a petroleum engineer. Perfect. Ms. Noonan, what expertise are you seeking to be qualified as an expert before this division?
I'm a petroleum geologist.
Geologist. Okay, very good. And Mr. How do you say your last name, sir?
Seoane.
It's hard to hear you, but I think you're saying
Yeah.
Seoane.
Seoane. Seoane. Seoane.
So on. Thank you, sir. What field are you seeking to be admitted as?
Yes, as a completions engineer.
As a what now?
Completions engineer.
Completions engineer. Very good. Okay, so let's start with you, Ms. Noonan. What education do you have toward your qualification?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in geology from the University of Texas A&M at College Station and a master's in geological sciences from UT Austin
And when did you earn those degrees?
in 2011 and 2013.
Perfect. And what work have you done since you've earned those degrees that qualifies you as an expert in geology?
From 2013 until today, I've been working for Occidental Petroleum, mostly in the Permian Basin, working as a geologist.
Okay, and what is your present title?
I'm a senior staff geologist,
Okay, for what company?
Occidental Petroleum.
Okay, very good. Okay, you are hereby qualified as an expert in geology before this division. Okay, now Mr. Suan.
Yes. Yes, I'm a chemical engineer from the University Simón Bolívar, Caracas, Venezuela.
And when did you earn that degree?
2000.
2000, okay.
Correct.
And what work have you done since then to qualify yourself?
Yeah, so I've been working with Oxy since 2006 as a production reservoir completions engineer. I was the completion engineer supervisor in 2012 for Permian. And then in 2015, I'm the completion engineer supervisor for Worldwide. And before that, I worked for Schlumberger, and I worked as a completion engineer, fracturing, cementing, and coil.
Okay. And what is your present title?
Worldwide completion engineer supervisor.
Okay, you are hereby qualified as a completion engineer. Is that what you want, or production engineer?
Completion engineer.
Completion engineer, before this division from here on in. Okay, now, Mr. Rankin, do you want to give a brief opening?
Yeah, I can do a very brief opening, Mr. Examiner. In this case, Oxy seeks an order authorizing the company to inject, for purposes of enhanced oil recovery, a pilot project in the second Bone Spring sand interval within the Bone Spring Formation, that will be dedicated to a proposed project area comprised of approximately 960 acres, more or less, in Eddy County, New Mexico. I'll go ahead and describe the township and locations here. It's Township 24 South, Range 29 East. Section 17 will be the west half. And then in Section 18, it's the east half, the west half, and the east half of that section. I will let Mr. Janacek describe the details around the proposed pilot project here. But essentially, there are potential of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 candidate wells that they're proposing for potential injection. They will choose only one, but they're asking for authority to inject into all of them, but will ultimately inject into only one. They anticipate that if the pilot project works as expected, it will benefit enhanced recovery within the second Bone Spring interval of the Bone Spring Formation, between approximately 9,900 feet and 10,100 feet true vertical depth. I'll let Mr. Janacek touch on the rest of the high-level technical aspects of their proposal. But based on this, Mr. Examiner, we ask that the division approve this pilot project as requested in the application. With that, if there's any questions, I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Janacek to approach the stand, and we'll have him review his testimony.
Okay. And which exhibits did Mr. Janacek personally responsible for?
Mr. Janacek is responsible for overseeing all the exhibits,
Oh.
but each of the witnesses have contributed slides to the exhibits. So I'll confirm as we go through which slides they each were responsible for.
Okay, Mr. Janacek, go right ahead.
All right, one moment. Mr. Janacek, you've already been qualified to testify as an expert in petroleum engineering. Can you please provide us a brief summary and overview of what it is that Oxy is requesting today?
Yes, I can. Adam, would you like to share your slides or?
I will.
Okay.
Get to the, here we go.
Okay, great. I can see your screen. Okay, good morning. So today with Oxy's proposed pilot project in New Mexico, we're proposing to initiate what we call an intra-well miscibility, or IWM, project. This is a type of enhanced oil recovery, or EOR, injection project. And this is within one single existing horizontal wellbore. As Mr. Rankin referred to earlier, there are 6 wells we are seeking the approval for the authority to inject into, but ultimately we will be selecting only one well for the pilot, and only one well will be part of this pilot project.
Mr. Janacek, let me interrupt you for just a moment. Mr. Rankin, I've conferred with the technical examiners. We are going to give each of these witnesses 15 minutes to present sort of a high-profile overview of their positions as experts, knowing that these 2 technical examiners have spent a lot of time reviewing all of these documents. Okay, so Mr. Janacek, please continue, but I'm going to start timing you at 12:15. Thank you.
Okay, great. I will set a timer on my watch as well. And with that said, since I've had previous meetings with the technical examiners on this, I will try and highlight any differences or updates since the previous discussions that we've had. So let me continue with wrapping up the project overview. Yes, I think we touched on the type of project being an EOR injection project. We are looking to inject into one of these 6 wells. Our primary candidate at the moment is the patent MDP1 18 Federal 5H, API number 30-015-44272. And the remaining 5 wells are alternate wells that could be selected. Talking about the target injection zone, we are targeting injecting into the second Bone Spring sand interval. All of these wells are drilled and completed in the second Bone Spring sand interval, and the associated true vertical depths of their producing perfs can be found on the injection well data sheets. Excuse me, I'm trying to skip through this and hit the highlights. The maximum allowable surface pressure for injection for produced gas for this project is proposed to be 4,590 psi, with a proposed average daily injection rate to be anywhere between 1.5 million standard cubic feet of gas injected per day, up to 3 million standard cubic feet of gas injected per day. I think that is all for this page, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you. Do you want to touch on discuss the timing, and you can just touch on the nature of the project area and the interests within this proposed project area?
Yes. Looking at the project area map here on page 14 of 92, Mr. Rankin, could you zoom out just a touch, please? Yes. Thank you. So in the project area map, we're looking at a couple different things. The first of which is the purple outline, which is the project area outline composed of the horizontal spacing unit of each of the 6 proposed wells. We're also highlighting here in yellow the Oxy leasehold in this project area and offset to the project area. We're also showing the red wellbore trajectories of each of the candidate wells. And then we're also showing in blue the half-mile AOR buffer. One thing to note about this project and these wells, all of these wells are 100% Oxy working interests. They are also all located on federal lease, and they are all only respectively located on one federal lease for each well. Let's see if that is, and I believe that is all my notes for that slide. Slide 15 here, our candidate list and requested relief. Again, it was referred to earlier, but our primary candidate for this project is the patent 185H. And as noted in the comments here, this is currently associated with a closed loop gas capture injection order, as well as 3 other wells on this list for our proposed project are closed loop gas capture wells. I'll speak to that in a bit. The requested relief summarized here is as follows. We're looking to conduct a pilot project over a 5-year period. There are these 6 proposed wells. We're looking to receive the authority to simultaneously inject the produced hydrocarbon gas while simultaneously producing oil and gas from the well. As stated previously, the maximum allowable surface pressure for injecting produced hydrocarbon gas is 4,590 psi in this project. And a note regarding the mechanical integrity tests, or MITs, for this project. The packer for the MIT will be set below the top of the bone spring formation at approximately 8,100 feet TVD. And the post-pilot MIT will be ran after injection ends. We are approximating that injection will be for about 48 months. That's our best guess at this point in time, but it could be shorter or longer. That is all for this slide.
So the next series of slides, Mr. Janacek, are the as-drilled C102s, slides 18 through 23. Is that correct for each of the proposed candidate wells?
That's correct.
And then, so we'll skip over those. The next slide I think that may be worth touching on is an explanation for how the pilot project will work, and you'll be able to simultaneously inject and produce. Do you want to just touch on some highlights here?
Yeah, some highlights here are we're focusing on the downhole aspects of this project, where we're zooming in on a portion of the horizontal well, as noted with the circled section A. This injection and production assembly is going to be installed in 1,000 feet of the existing 5,000 feet of the producing lateral for this proof of concept pilot. And what we have here is a simplified diagram of what will be happening with injection going into the well and production coming out of the hole simultaneously. So walking through this diagram, we have in red are perforation clusters, which will be injected into. So our injected gas will go into these perf clusters, and then it will enter the reservoir and sweep the reservoir pore space between the injection and production perf clusters. And then we will see finally production coming out of the producing perf clusters, flow up the tubulars of our well to surface, and it will be produced. So this is a simplified overview of a zoomed in injection sequence within the horizontal wellbore.
Quickly, Mr. Janacek, the gas that will be used for this injection for EOR purposes will be source gas from under an existing commingling approval. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this slide here, slide 25 of 92, shows which order that commingling order is authorized under.
That's correct.
And then the following pages, slides 26 through 28, are each of the wells that contribute source gas under that existing commingling approval.
That's correct.
And each of the 6 wells that are proposed as candidate wells in this project, they will be, they're also underneath this existing commingling approval, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now I want to move to the next slide here, which is a demonstration of how Oxy has modeled the expected EOR benefits. We just confirmed for me, Mr. Janacek, that Oxy has modeled this, and if the pilot project works as expected, Oxy expects to see a positive response within the second bone spring, which is the target here.
That's correct. We do.
Okay. Next slide here, I want you just to touch on this so it's clear. You mentioned that this is a BLM lease and it's 100% federal acreage and 100% working interest Oxy. Just explain for us, for the record, how it is that Oxy is going to account for has discussed with the BLM, and it will get BLM approval for this, but how Oxy is going to be accounting for the federal royalties here.
Yes, so Oxy met with the BLM on October 30th, 2024 to provide an overview of the project and discuss the proposed gas accounting methodology. And since this project is going to be injecting produced gas, which would be similar to the normally produced gas, we wanted to have a way to address this. So Oxy proposed to the BLM royalty-free use of the injected hydrocarbon gas, where 100% of the injected gas volumes will be deducted from the produced gas volumes before calculating royalty payment. The BLM officers verbally approved the proposal during the meeting, and BLM will provide written approval after a royalty-free sundry is submitted by Oxy.
Now, you mentioned in your introductory comments, Mr. Janacek, that some of these proposed candidate wells are existing within a existing closed loop gas capture project. Can you explain briefly, referring to slide 31, what Oxy intends to do or how Oxy intends to manage any of those wells if they are identified as a injection well for this pilot project?
Yes, so 4 of our proposed candidate wells are associated with a CLGC storage injection order. This is associated with case 22152, an injection order R-22208. And on this slide, the 4 wells are listed. One note is that the primary candidate here is noted incorrectly. Our primary candidate is the patent 185H. What Oxy is proposing the NMOCD do in this instance to avoid any overlap in injection orders is, after Oxy has selected our final candidate and injection commences, Oxy proposes the OCD amend the order R-22208 with the selected IWM candidate well removed.
Following Mr. Janacek, you've conducted an area review pursuant to the division's regulations to confirm all the offsetting operators and wells within a half-mile area.
That's correct, yes.
And this first slide here is a 2-mile map showing the mineral ownership within 2 miles of the proposed project area.
Yes.
And the following is the area review identifying each of the well bores that partially penetrate or penetrate within a half mile of any one of the 6 proposed candidate injectors.
Yes.
And you've identified by number a reference for each of the wells, and in red are the ones that are the candidate wells, correct?
Correct.
And then the following pages are the tabulation of well data for each of the wells identified on that area review map, showing the well construction, current well construction for each of those wells.
Yes.
And you've identified in red the wells that are the candidate wells, correct?
Correct.
And you've also identified under the comment column the wells that are currently subject to the closed loop gas capture case that you referenced.
Correct.
And identified on this tabulation also the wells that are in temporary abandonment status or have been permanently abandoned as well.
Yes.
And the following pages from slides 38 to 44 are the wellbore diagrams for each of those wells that penetrate the proposed injection interval that have been PA'd or TA'd.
Yes.
Have you identified any well construction problems or risk of communication through those well bores to any vertically offsetting zones?
No, I have not.
So in your opinion, each of these wells are properly plugged and abandoned or temporarily abandoned?
Yes.
Following Mr. Janacek is starting at slide 46 are the well bore schematics for each of the proposed injection wells. Is that correct?
Correct.
We don't have a whole lot of time here, but basically, Mr. Janacek, these demonstrate how Oxy proposes to construct these well bores for purposes of injection. Is that right?
That's correct, for purposes of injection and production simultaneously.
Is it your opinion that approval of this application will prevent waste and protect correlative rights?
Yes.
And if the pilot project works as expected, do you believe it will increase production substantially more, result in substantially more hydrocarbons within the project area than would otherwise be produced within the Second Bone Spring?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then Mr. Janacek, were slides 1 through 57 either prepared by you under your direction and supervision?
Yes.
Okay, no further questions, and I can move on to our next witness. Yeah, okay. Next witness is going to be Mr. Sawani. Mr. Sawani, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep. Very well. Mr. Swanee, you are the completions engineer who oversaw the development of this project for the completion side, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to work with you just to kind of go through at a high level, and you can, address the issues that you think are salient. Okay, so let me get to your slides real quick.
Yeah.
Real quickly, just at a high level, Mr. Swanee, can you explain on slide 58 how Oxy determined the maximum surface injection pressure?
Yeah, so we determined the max surface injection pressure utilizing the two gradients. The first gradient there is the OCD gradient of 0.2 PSI per foot, and then utilizing the freshwater gradient of 0.433. And then we utilize the TVD of the packer. So adding the two gradients, OCD, the freshwater times the true vertical depth of the packer gave us basically the bottom hole pressure. We utilize this bottom hole pressure to be actually utilized in the Prosper model, which Prosper is an industry standard software, which you can make calculations in terms of pressures on surface. What would be the max pressure that we're going to be seeing injecting gas? So the rates, and basically with Prosper, we're able to calculate the max pressure that Stephen pointed out, around 4590 PSI would be our max surface pressure. The injection rates that we're thinking or actually proposing on this project is around 1.5 million standard cubic feet a day to 3 million, and that will be dictated by the injection assembly itself.
Next slide. Oh, next slide here. Mr. Swanee, just at a high level, explain how the wellbore will be constructed during and for injection and what components will be in place.
Yeah, so we have 1 through 4 components. The first one, basically we have all these different components to mitigate any potential risk with mechanical integrity. So the first one we're going to be running, and I'll talk a little bit about that on my next slide, on the magnetic logging tool. We're going to run a magnetic impedance tool on a yearly basis to understand what is actually the thickness of the casing itself. The good thing about this tool, it can read to up to 5 different casings in a concentric way. And if necessary, when we pull the equipment out, we can run a inspection log or a caliper inspection log as well. And then number 2 would be our mechanical integrity test. Once we pull the equipment out of the well, we can set a plug in the well and then do a hydro test of the well to the pressures needed for the project. After we're done, after 48 months, we can sting out actually the tubing and then retest the well at pressures that are needed in terms for regulatory purposes. And then on number 3, we would like to prevent any corrosion on the casing itself, because we're going to be injecting gas between tubing and casing. And we have a dehydration unit which will strip out the water of the gas, which will prevent corrosion on the casing. And then last but not least is number 4, the SCADA system. Basically is to prevent any potential, if there's any pressure spikes, we'll have safety shutdown valves. We can measure injection rates as well, the injection pressure, and then we can actually monitor the braiding head pressures of this well. Basically, we can measure all the different pressures on different casings, and the SCADA system will give us alert for that. There's another page further down that has the whole exhibit in terms of how the whole plan for the SCADA system. So with that, we'll go to the next one, which is the EM log. As I pointed before, we can run these logs through tubing, through production tubing. They can measure, the good thing about these logs, they can measure actually the OD or the ID OD up to 5 different strings in a concentric way. The tool measures 1/16, so we can actually, as I said, get it in through the tubing. If we compare that to a caliper log, 40-arm caliper log, it only reads the ID of your tubing or casing that you're doing the reads. As I said, the EM will do both internal ID, OD. And why that is important for the project, because we're going to be calculating actually the max pressure that the casing can see. And we can see as well in time if there's any changes on the thickness of the casing. With that, the pressure calculation based on the EM log, we're going to use Bartol's equation, which is part of API 53C or 5C3, sorry. With that, we can calculate the max burst pressure. And as you can see in the Bartol's equation, there's OD and ID that it's been taken in consideration to calculate the max pressures for the project.
Can you explain real quick for the record what ID is and OD?
Yes, it's internal diameter of the pipe and external diameter of the pipe.
Anything more on this slide, Mr. Sawani?
No, we can go to the next one.
Yeah, just at a high level, explain how Oxy will run these MITs.
Yeah, so we'll, as mentioned before, we're going to be pulling the production equipment out. We're going to set a plug to the bottom of the well. We're going to be pressure testing, and then that's going to be the first MIT. Then we're going to be installing injection assembly after that. And then after the 48 months or prior to 48 months, or if we see anything from the EMT or the electromagnetic logs, we can actually sting out, pull out. We have a disconnect sub, which is there on the graph. Pull out basically the tubing, set the plug towards the end of the well, and hydro test back again, or pressure test the casing at that point. Once we do that, we can sting back in with the production tubing, and then we can return the well back to normal production. One thing we have to think about is once we do that, once we pull all the equipment out of the way, we're going to be pulling as well lines, fiber lines and electric lines, and that would disconnect basically the bottom section in terms of data gathering. So that's something to have into consideration through the project. Okay, we can go to the next ones.
So next one's, Mr. Sawani, just at a high level, these were, the next two slides are gas samples. The first one is of gas produced from this zone. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. One of the samples is injected gas and the other one is produced gas. And I think so the important part is that we don't see any H2S on the gas portion of it.
Okay. Both the producing gas and the injection gas are very similar in quality, correct?
Correct.
And neither has hydrogen sulfide, correct?
Yes, correct.
The next slide here, I think, is an overview of the SCADA system. Just again, at a high level, explain how Oxy intends to continuously monitor the injection operations.
Yeah, so something that you're going to be a little bit different from other projects. If you can see the square magenta color, we're going to be adding a spool in terms of the wellhead itself. And you can see there's two different cables that they're being coming out of the spool. One of them is going to be an electrical cable where we're going to be getting pressures and temperatures from the horizontal section. And the green cable is going to be your fiber optics cable. As well, on those cables, we're going to have two internal valves that they're good to 10,000 pounds, just in case if there's an event of overpressure, so we can actually control the well. With that said, I'll walk you through the high pressure compressor. From the high pressure compressor, we're going to go to the injection skid. We're going to have a flow meter there, 2-inch flow meter. We're going to be metering the flow and then totalizing the amount of gas as described by Stephen. Then we're going to have a 2-inch Fisher flow valve, which we can control the amount of gas going into to be injected. Then in terms of the wellhead itself, as you can see, we have subsurface safety shutdown valves And then we are going to have pressure transducers and pressure gauges. So the pressure gauges are for the field personnel. They can see the pressures from a surface perspective. And then the pressure transducers, we're going to have a SCADA system that we can see on a 5-minute or a minute base the pressure on these wells to monitor. And that's pretty much it from a big picture perspective. I
And
think for those yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was
Yeah,
just going to say that the next set of slides, I don't think we need to go into them, but 65 through 67 are a description of your operational and SCADA plan, correct?
yes, that is correct.
So I'm going to skip down because I think you also provided an additional exhibit and the exhibit B. And that is an overview of the assembly installation procedure. In the next 3 minutes or so, Mr. Swanee, can you please just give an overview of how Oxy is going to be and installing this setup in one of the injection wells?
Yes. So as I explained before, step number 1, we're going to be running magnetic, the EM log or the magnetic log to understand that with Bartle's equation that basically these casings are be able to withstand the at least 4,600 pounds. Then once that is checked and complete, we're going to move in a pulling unit. At that point, we're going to clean out up to 12,000 feet, not to the TD of the well, only 1,000 feet of the section that we're going to be installing the equipment. After that, on step number 4, once we do that, we're going to pull out and then run logs. We're going to be running a CBL and gyro under a tractor up to 12,000 feet. Then after that, we're going to be returning the well to production and make an engineering decision if we want to proceed with the production equipment on this well or the set of packers that Adam showed you before in one of the sections there with Stephen. Then if everything checks good, then we're going to be running actually back again the workover rig, which is the WR. And then and pulling unit, and then we're going to be running a bit and scraper towards 12,000 feet, making sure everything is clean before we run actually a packer in the well and do the hydro test on the well itself. Now we satisfy the mechanical integrity test, and then at that point we're going to be running with the completion tools, packers into the well, set everything up. And then we'll rig down, move the rig out of the way, and then turn basically the well to production. We'll commence actually high pressure gas, and then we'll commence surveillance, and the SCADA system will be on at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Swanee. Anything further on this exhibit or anything else that I didn't elicit from you that you want to say with respect to your area of this application?
No, I'm all good. Thank you, Adam.
Good. With that, Mr. Swanee, did you prepare slides 58 through 66 and 79 that we just reviewed?
Yes, with the help of Stephen.
Thank you very much. No further questions of this witness, Mr. Examiner, so we'll move on to our last witness, Ms. Noonan, who is the petroleum geologist. Ms. Noonan, we've been previously qualified now as an expert in petroleum geology. Let me know, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Great. With that, I think you also have prepared a series of slides, providing an overview of your geologic assessment of the area being suitable for this injection project, correct?
Yes.
With that, I will turn it over to you. I think there's slides 81, starting at 81. If you would, Ms. Noonan, just please give an overview of your analysis of the geology and the acreage.
Thank you. This slide shows the geologic statement for the IWM injection project. The injection wells, candidate wells are listed in the table with the primary candidate starred, the 5H. We see those wells on the right-hand side shown on the map and in the table. The primary candidate 5H is outlined in orange, and the backup candidates are single black lines. The map also shows the patent 17 and 18 section outlines for the sand dunes acreage that Oxy operates. The primary candidate is the patent MDP1 18 Federal 5H, with the other backups listed in case of mechanical integrity issues. I've done a geologic review of this area and will comment on the vertical succession of rock as well as lateral succession to impart confinement upon the gas that will be injected into this project. So to talk about the vertical confinement, the wells are landed in the Second Bone Spring Sandstone Formation, which is a subformation of the Bone Spring. The top of the Bone Spring Formation is at 8132 measured depth. Between the injection zone and the top of the Bone Spring, there's over 1,200 feet of tight carbonates, mudstones, and shales acting as permeability barriers to any upward migration of injected gas. Above that, there's the Delaware Mountain Group, which consists of ponate water-bearing and hydrocarbon-bearing sands with minor limestone and shale intervals, not necessarily considered as a confining zone. That is 3,800 feet thick. But above the Delaware Mountain Group is the Castile Formation, which is very, very low permeability anhydrite, gypsum, and calcite. That's a 1,500 foot thick barrier to any upward migration movement of fluids. Above that is the Salado, which is 1,000 feet thick salt. And then above that is the Rustler Formation. The Rustler is also a very tight anhydrite layer and acts as another 1,000 foot barrier of permeability barrier for any injected gas. Above the Rustler is a perched freshwater aquifer, which is the lowest level known of fresh aquifer in the area. Because of the thickness of multiple impermeable rock layers above the injection zone and the Second Bone Spring Sandstone, I do not think there's a possible path for migration upward into any freshwater aquifers where they exist. So that's the vertical succession of rock. Laterally, I do not think that the injection will migrate laterally outside of the area of interest. The injection will be contained by the reservoir volume that's been previously depleted by the producing wells. The tight, low permeability reservoir will be and the production from the adjacent wells will be the primary constraints on conformance laterally of the injection into the project area. So we expect to contain the injected gas laterally. Now, there are deep Pennsylvania and Devonian faults in the area, but seismic data show that these faults do not extend into the confining zone in the Ochoan, which is the Rustler, Castile, and Salado type sands, tight salts that I mentioned. So there's no fault between the confining zones and the injection zone. The offset of the fault is constrained at the top of the Third Bone Spring limestone, which exists below the Second Bone Spring sandstone. So there's no faulting between the confining zone, the injection zone, and any of the confining zones. After review, there's one active monitoring well within a 2-mile radius of the primary patent well candidate, but no groundwater wells were found. The next slides support all these statements. We can see the area type log showing gamma ray and resistivity, which outlines those formations I was mentioning, the vertical succession of rock. You can see in yellow the Second Bone Spring sand formation that we're injecting into for the primary candidate. It's overlain by 2,100 feet of tight carbonates and shales in the Bone Spring. Above that is the Delaware Mountain Group, and then above that is another confining zone, the Rustler, Salado, Castile salt anhydrite section. That's 3,000 feet thick. And the only aquifer of concern would be above the Rustler. So we have multiple intervals of tight rock that are between the injection zone and any drinking water. Next slide, please. This is a cross-section to show the lateral continuity of those confining zones that I mentioned. On the left, you can see a area map of the sand dunes acreage operated by Oxy. The red outline is the patent 18 and 17 sections, and then we can also see the primary and candidate wells on the map, as well as the location of the cross-section. The cross-section shows the continuity of both that 3,000 foot thick confining zone in the Ochoan, Rustler, Salado, Castile, as well as the continuity of the 2,100 foot thick tight carbonates and shales in the Bone Spring. So over patent 18 and 17, we expect lateral continuity of these confining zones. Next slide, please. This slide shows the structure interpretation for the sand dunes and patent area. On the left, we can see the Devonian fault traces that I mentioned earlier on. These Devonian faults, as I said, do not extend to the injection zone, but are denoted on this map so their location can be noted. The middle and right maps are the top second Bone Spring sand structure maps and top Bone Spring structure maps, as well as the red outline of patent 17 and 18 section lines. You can also see the primary and backup candidate well locations, as well as any wells in white circle that are data used to create these structure maps. Overall, we have a gently eastward dipping structure in the second Bone Sand and in the Bone Spring. That's all for this slide. For active groundwater wells, this is a map showing the any shallow wells within a 1 mile radius around the patent area. Only one well was found. This is active but listed as monitoring. So we do not believe there are any groundwater wells within the area of the project. That concludes my slides. Thank you.
With time to spare, anything further, Ms. Noonan, that you didn't address before we open up the panel to questions by the division?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. At this time, that completes our initial presentation of the application here for this pilot project, and we make each of these witnesses available for questions by the division examiners.
Thank you. I believe that Mr. Million Geber-Michael will go first, and then we will follow with the second technical examiner.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
Turn your microphone on.
Thank you very much. All right, I will proceed. I think it's going to be addressed to the panel, but may I direct your attention to page 29? Perfect. Thank you so much. My question is, we could see the benefit of this proposed project in terms of production uplifting. My question is, how do you compare this pilot project to traditional enhancement methods like half and puff, or having a salt injector and then a series of producer wells? What's the advantage of this rather unique method compared to those traditional enhancement methods?
Yes, I believe I'll take that one initially, Mr. Examiner. When we look at this project compared to other types of EOR injection projects, this one is unique in the sense that it is utilizing one wellbore instead of traditionally two. In a traditional water flood or CO2 injection pilot, or excuse me, projects, you will have a dedicated producing well and dedicated injection well. In this instance, since we have one well, but we have a lateral with multiple producing perforation steps, we're able to treat it as if those different perf clusters are wells. So in essence, we're able to utilize one wellbore here for injection and production at the same time, instead of a traditional setup where you have production and injection in two dedicated wells. Does that answer your question?
So you think this is more suited to horizontal wells, maybe?
Yes, this is more of an application for horizontal wells in unconventional plays.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's good. All right, I'll proceed to the next question. If I may direct your attention to page number 13, 1-3. You described there are 6 candidates for this project, and then you're going to run this EM logs, electromagnetic logs, to select the well for the project. What are the characteristics you are hoping to identify with EM log in determining the candidate well?
I will let Ed take this one.
All right.
Yes, good afternoon. So with the EM log, what we're looking at is if we can go back to the, I think so slide where we have the equation, Barlow's equation. So with this log, we're going to be measuring around 1/2 foot to 1 foot through the whole section of the well. And what we're looking at is that that the casing is good at least 20% of the pressure that we're going to be injecting on this well. So if we're looking at 4,600, at least we want to make sure that the well itself through top to bottom actually is over 5,800 based on that Barlow's equation. If it meets that criteria, then the well is a candidate for the pilot.
Is that for the burst pressure?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. No, that's. I'll proceed to the next question. On page 58, you proposed a maximum surface injection pressure of 4,590 psi, and then the maximum injection rate, it could range between 1.5 to 3 million. How did you determine those figures? And then the other question I have is, what are your inputs into the Prosper model in determining this maximum pressure? And then have you considered the friction in this regard, or the Prosper model automatically takes it into consideration?
Yes. And so as you can see there on the slide, we took basically the fluid composition, the downhole equipment, the bottom hole pressure, and the other thing is going to be dictating the rate is the injection assembly itself. So there's a little bit uncertainty in terms, it might be between 1.5 to 3 million, but we want to cap basically the max injection rate to 4590. And that's due to be able to be miscible, be in a miscible phase to be able to push the oil from the injection side to the production side.
So, did you take into consideration friction? Did you compensate yourself for friction?
Yes.
Do you have an idea what that pressure is? Top of your head or no?
Oh, so I think so we're looking, yeah. Yeah, so I think so from the bottom hole, can you specify? I think so what you're pointed out is the bottom hole assembly?
Yes, especially the 1,000, the horizontal, that's where the friction is dominant. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we want to keep it no more than 2,000 pounds. And that's why we have actually pressure gauges at the bottom of this well. Actually, we don't want to exceed a differential of 3,000 pounds as well, because there's some limitations on the equipment itself. One of the things that we're going to have in this well is bottom hole pressure on real time. And as I said, we don't want to go over 3,000 pounds differential.
Sure. This question also goes with this one. Since these are existing production wells, is there any fracture gradient available from your previous either acidization or fracking. Do you have that value there from the previous data?
Yes, and I think so. It's close to surface pressure of 4,800 pounds. So we
Okay.
want to maintain less than 4,800 pounds because if we go over that, we're fracturing. We don't want to fracture the well.
So you did take into consideration your fracture gradient in determining this pressure?
Yes, correct.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right, I'll proceed to the next question. If I may direct your attention to page number 34. Yes, this one has Oxy conducted a reservoir simulation model to determine the plume expansion of the injected gas in the future?
Not that I am aware of.
Do you think that that would be necessary though?
I think that is something that we could discuss and potentially provide.
Yeah, especially, injecting at that rate. Yeah, all right. All right, thank you. I'll proceed to the next question. I think you kind of touched it upon on this one, Stephen, but on page 30, Adam, if you could go to page 30, thank you. That's fine. Yeah, you stated that Oxy is anticipating BLM approval. Has Oxy obtained the approval yet? And then when are you hoping that you're going to get that approval?
Yes, so we have already received verbal approval from the BLM when we met with them in October of 2024. And then we will receive written approval after we filed the sundry.
Do you have any timeline for that one? When are you going to submit the sundry?
Yes, we will submit the sundry after the order has been issued and we have selected an IWM candidate well.
Okay. All right, I think I'll proceed to the next question. If I may direct your attention to page number 46. Q. Could you please describe the function of the fiber optic line denoted with a lilac line, I guess, color?
Yes.
Yeah, if you could do that, and then while you're there, I just want to confirm.
Yes. So.
All right. Yeah, just go ahead with this one.
Yeah, so we're going to have two lines. One of them is going to be the fiber optic. And actually, the dotted line, if you go to the bottom section where the different packers are, actually that line should be continuing through the well up to 12,000 feet.
Yeah, it expands all the way. Okay.
It expands all the way, exactly. So we're going to be measuring basically temperature with the fiber optics, and we're going to be measuring acoustic. And with the temperature, what we would like to understand is how the gas and production is moving through the horizontal section. And then with the acoustic portion of it, of the fiber, we're going to be understanding potentially the magnitude of gas or production that is coming from each section or contributions. So we're going to be doing some estimates on that piece. And then the green line is going to be your electric line for the, as I pointed before, we're going to have gauges, pressure gauge and a temperature gauge as well. We're going to have two gauges on each section, and we're going to be recording basically data on each portion of the well as well.
Great, thank you. So with this, the acoustic and temperature also might have another benefit, giving you any information behind the casing, maybe, like gas migrating through the cement or something?
Correct.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, the other question that goes with this one is the pressure rating of the wellhead 10,000 K? I just want to confirm.
Yeah, it's going to be 10K.
Okay.
All right, the next question is, if I may direct your attention to page number 59. Okay. Thank you. This question is concerned on the DHI unit. And then you stated that it will serve as a corrosion prevention because you're going to strip the water. In addition to the water, are you planning to add any anti-corrosion additives, or inhibitors or anything, or are you just going to strip the water?
Just only strip the water at this point.
Stripping the water. Okay. Promise this is the last question from me. If I may direct your attention to page 59.
Same page 59.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be the same. So you propose that you're going to conduct 2 MITs initially, and then what is it, after 48 months? Given that you're losing your primary, when you're using the casing tubing annulus, you're using a casing as a primary mechanical barrier, do you think probably increasing the MIT frequency would be beneficial?
Yeah, so the issue with doing before the 48 months, one thing that we're going to have an issue is with the fiber optics and the electric line. If we pull the equipment out and sting out, we're going to lose that capability. So we're not going to be able to measure what is happening through the horizontal section. And that's why we're proposing to do the EM log on a yearly basis, or if the SCADA system sees something that is abnormal, we'll do an EM log earlier. But if we see something that is outside of the extraordinary, we're still going to be pulling the equipment out. So we can do that before the 48 months if it's necessary.
It's necessary. So the EM log and the acoustic temperature data would also give you good information about the well integrity, I suppose.
Correct. And the fiber will be on the vertical section as well. Correct.
No, that's great. Well, I conclude my question. Now I'll pass it to Mr. Tony Harrison. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harrison, can you turn on your camera, please? Mr. Harrison, would you turn on your camera, please?
Yep, it's on.
Okay, very good. I see you now. Okay, Mr. Harrison, please proceed.
Okay, my first question is related to the proposed completion components and the installation procedure. So if we could go to slide 46, please. Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for an overview of how this completion components are actually installed in the well. I guess my first question is, would this entire assembly be run as a one-trip system?
Yes, it would be a single trip system. Correct.
Okay, so you basically pick up your isolation packers for the horizontal section, all of your associated cables and fiber optics will be banded to the pipe, and then your upper packer, I guess your production packer, would also be, so everything's run in a single trip.
Correct. And it's going to be a hydraulic packer. It's not going to be a mechanical one because we won't be able to rotate. So it has to be hydraulic, and it would be just one single trip system.
So okay. So in terms of the upper packer, there's penetrations through that packer, both for your gauge cables,
gauge
your fiber
cable,
optics, and also it allows gas to be injected through the packer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's called a feed-through packer.
Okay, so is that a unidirectional flow through that packer? Is there a check valve in there, or can gas also flow back up through the packer.
Potentially can flow back.
So you need to maintain positive pressure, otherwise you would have backflow across that packer.
Yes.
Okay, so you say that they're hydraulically set. What's the setting sequence for that? Do you drop a ball and land on a seat? Do you pump it down? How is that activated?
Yeah, it would be dropping a ball.
Okay, so then the packers in the horizontal section and the packer in the vertical section, all of those would be set simultaneously?
No, so the beauty about the system is the packers on the horizontal section is swellable systems.
Okay, so what
Mhm.
medium do they need for swelling? Do they need water? Do they need an oil medium? How does it work?
Water. Water and salinity. Mhm.
Okay, so you'll basically have, how do you ensure that that water stays in the zone and doesn't leak off into the perfs while you're running in hole?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, that's one of the things we're working on in terms of the fluid composition, making sure that we have the density enough to be able to maintain the water and salinity there. So there's different products out there that we're looking at this point to maintain that density.
Okay. I know you mentioned that you'd be running a cleanup assembly, excuse me, before you run the packers. Since you're running through the existing perforations here, I mean, there's going to be burrs, there's going to be some sharp edges that could damage the elastomeric elements on those packers. Do you plan to include a string mill or like a tubing broach to remove those burrs and sharp edges to mitigate any damage to your packers, or what's your plan for that?
Yes, that is correct. So what we would like to do is have almost a 98% drift. And then the packers itself are going to be smaller than that 98% drift to make sure that we don't damage the packers.
Okay. You mentioned stinging in. So is this assembly, do you have a polish bore receptacle above that upper
Yes.
packer, or what? Okay. So that is obviously run in the pin position while you're running in hole.
Correct.
And then do you shear that pin later, or do you just leave it as is?
No, we'll leave it there. We can shear it if it's necessary, and we're working through the calculations of shearing because we have to incorporate as well the cables, right?
Mm-hmm. So I guess there's a risk that if you did shear the pin, you could disconnect and lose all communication. Is that fair
Correct.
to say?
Yes, that's fair to say.
Have you modeled whether or not the temperature change during injection and production, whether or not that would be create enough forces to shear the pin?
Not at this point. We're working through that.
Okay. I guess going back, if we could focus, still on the same slide, focusing on the packers, the isolation packers between the perforations. So once those packers swell,
Right.
You mentioned that there's obviously going to be penetrations through those packers for your fiber optics and
Yes.
for your gauge cable, because you've got a gauge between each packer and you've got fiber optic cable extending through each of the packers. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. But there's going to be basically, they're going to be sealed around those swellable packers for the cables.
Okay. So when you pressure up, again, you had the pressure up to set your production packer. Is that correct? Your upper packer?
Yes, that is correct.
So you've got a blanking plug. If you look at the very end of your tubing, you got a nipple profile there. So that nipple is obviously run in place. So you can pressure up against that nipple. So you've got a closed system then that you're pressuring up against. So in order to produce your fluids back through the tubing, how do you get communication through that tubing? Is there a sliding sleeve, or how is that accomplished?
Yeah, so we're gonna be retrieving basically from the blanking plug and then okay, so I just want to make sure you're clear in terms of how we're gonna be producing. Adam, can you point out so there's two sections. One is gonna be an injection and one is gonna be a producing area. So on the producing area, as you can see, the tubing has a hole. We're going to be producing from that hole up to the surface section.
But if that hole is there, how are you going to pressure up to set your production packer?
Now, so the production packer is going to be, as I said, in the up here. If you go to the disconnect portion of it, yes. So we're going to be pressure up. Actually, it's going to be below the packer. We're going to have a nipple there and pressure up from that point up the well.
So you drop a ball to pressure up against that? You get
Yes,
a seat?
yes.
How do you retrieve, how do you remove that ball to
Then we
open
have
a
to
flow
go
path
in.
for production?
Yeah, so production will come back again if you go to the bottom section there, where the yes. So production will come actually through the perforations up to the tubing, up to the vertical section of the well.
So then you're relying on the production to lift that ball off the seat and recover that surface. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and you've modeled that that's achievable with the anticipated production rates, and I guess, consider Stokes' law, how fast that ball will settle in your tube, in your fluid versus the velocity of your fluids inside your 5.5-inch tubing.
Yeah, we're in the process of making those calculations.
Is there any option to have a dissolvable ball?
Yes. Yes, there's a option that we're looking at from a dissolvable perspective, correct.
And what medium would you need for that ball to dissolve? Would it need to be a brine, or what fluid medium do you need?
Yeah, so it could be brine, one of the medias, or it could be, brine, correct.
Okay. So I guess at the end of the project, how would this completion assembly be retrieved?
Now, the plan is not to retrieve it, is keep it in place. And that's why if we go back again, Adam, if you can go to the bottom section of the well where there's a nipple. Actually, we're planning to go with coil. We ran calculations in terms of lockup calculations and get that nipple out of the way and then return the well to the rest of the horizontal to production at that point.
Okay.
And
so go ahead.
Yeah, and we have a contingent plan to leave basically a tailpipe long enough that we can get if we can pull that nipple, actually we'll go in with coil, TCP, perforate the tubing, and then we'll restore production on the well.
Okay, so that nipple it's a regular X nipple, R nipple. What kind of profile are you looking at there?
Well, I have the specs. I can send you. I can get the specs. I don't have it handy at this point.
Well, you'd engage it with either an overshot or an internal fishing neck, like a GS profile.
Yes, GS. It's going to be a GS neck, correct?
So an internal fishing neck.
Yes.
So, and you'll retrieve this with coil. That's your plan.
With coil.
Okay. And your simulation showed that there's no issues with reaching that depth, no issues with lockup inside the 5.5 inch.
Yes, there's no issues with lockup at this point.
Okay. Would there be potential to pull it with tractor if necessary?
No, I don't think so. Will fit in that 2 3/8 tubing. So there's a limitation there with a tractor and dimensions of the pipe.
Okay. So in looking at your packers again, those horizontal packers or the packers in the horizontal section, those penetrations for your fiber optics and for your gauge cable, are they going to be banded to your tubing, or do they actually penetrate through the packer itself? Because I'm thinking as they swell, would there be any issue? Would there be any potential for them to as the packer swells that cause a communication issue or a loss of communication?
No, that is a fair question. Yes, so they're going to go through the packer itself. And from other wells, we haven't seen any issues on the expansion and creating any damage to the cables itself.
So but they do pass, there is a penetration through the packer.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then, so how does your gas get through those packers and into the desired injection zone? Is there must be some sort of a umbilical that also passes through those packers, or how's that achieved?
Yes, it's through an umbilical. And the gas will go through the umbilical. So we size the umbilical based on the rates that we want to achieve through through each one. So it's going to have two umbilicals itself. And as I said, they're sized based on the differential pressure, I think so, based on the previous question on we want to make sure we have the sizes enough to be able to get the injection rates that we need through the project.
Okay. All right. Let me check some of my notes here.
One thing I can do, if you want to, I can send you a program of how we're going to be actually setting the hydraulic packer if you want to.
Okay, yeah, that'd be useful. So if we could just focus on the cables that are your red cable for your gas lift valve. That's an electric gas lift valve. Could you explain how the operation of that valve?
Yeah, so it's electric gas lift. Basically, it's just one surface, one orifice itself, and there's going to be a cable where we're going to be opening or closing actually the valve itself to be able to induce gas if we need to do any gas lift on the well itself.
So do you anticipate needing gas lift to kick this off, based on the production history as well?
Correct. That is correct. In a certain phase of the project, we might need gas lift.
Okay, but you don't have any means to control you have no mechanism to control how much gas goes into your gas lift valve versus how much goes down and into the perforations. Is that correct?
That is correct. So initially we're going to be opening. It's going to help to offload the well. And then once it offload the well, we'll close it electrically back again, the valve.
Okay, so you will use it to kick off the well initially?
Correct. It's just only to kick off, to make sure that the well's flowing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you basically got, as we can see here, you got three cables going back to surface. If we could jump to maybe slide 64. So I think Million asked the question that the pressure rating for your Christmas tree is 10K. Is that correct?
Correct.
So how about the pressure rating for the remaining components on your wellhead for, what's the pressure rating for your wellhead components associated with the 13 3/8 surface casing?
Oh, that is a fair question. I need to get back with you on that piece.
Okay. Likewise for the 9 5/8, what's the pressure rating on your wellhead components?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
For your 9 5/8 intermediate casing. And
yes,
those valves, those annular valves on that spool piece, what's the pressure rating on that, on those components?
Yeah, on those components, as I said, I need to, I'll get those pressure ratings. I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's very important because that annulus is going to be pressurized with 5,000 psi or 4,590, whatever your proposed injection injection pressure
95
is?
volts or the, because we have
No,
a
sorry,
long
you're
speed.
you're 5.5 inch. So that was my
5.5
next question. What's the pressure rating on your 5.5 inch
Yeah, so the
production
5.5
casing valves?
is 12,700 pounds. The casing itself is P110.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's your burst
then-
pressure, but that the valves on coming off your spool piece
That's
for
10,000.
monitoring annulus pressure. What's
Yeah.
the pressure rating of those valves?
Yeah, so on those, we're gonna be, I think, we're gonna go to 10,000 pounds for sure.
They're not already installed?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
Okay, we'll need to see all those parameters because we want to make sure that they're suitably rated, obviously, that they can withstand the pressures that you plan to have on this annulus during your injection operations.
Yeah.
So my next question would be related to your well control and your barrier philosophy. So on the very bottom, you're showing at the very bottom right-hand side of that wellhead, you show your additional spool piece that you'll be adding. And then coming off the side, you'll have an electrical cable and a fiber optic cable.
Mhm.
Are those dedicated penetrations through that spool piece?
Yes, they're dedicated for each one.
So your cables, both cables will pass through a dedicated penetration. And then your footnote down at the bottom says each connection to the additional spool has 2 internal valves with 10K pressure rating that can close in an event. I assume you mean, by event, you mean a well control event?
Yes, correct.
So just to confirm, those are dedicated penetrations and that those cables do not pass at all through those valves.
Correct. Yeah, they're dedicated. Yes.
So the operation of those valves is not impeded in any way with cables across those
No.
valves. Okay, very good. I guess my next question would be for the control line for your gas lift, your electric gas lift. That would be coming to surface also and passing through your tubing hanger. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So you've got a dedicated penetration through that tubing hanger so that there's no obstruction across your master valve or crown valve.
Correct.
Okay, good. Could you, we'd like to see that in an additional package just to elaborate on all these items. So we need to confirm the pressure rating of the 13 3/8 surface casing, the 9 5/8 wellhead components, not the casing, sorry, but the wellhead components. Those pressure ratings need to be confirmed, and also the tubing hanger penetrations.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So I guess my next questions would focus primarily on production and reservoir engineering aspects. So you mentioned earlier that this is for a single existing well bore. So basically all injection that occurs would be associated with production for that dedicated well. None of the offset wells would be affected by this injection. Is that the premise?
Well, there's some unknowns on that piece.
What would they be?
Yeah, so the whole premise is not, but there's an unknown, we have hydraulic fracks going through. And that's why if we go back again, Adam, can you go to the where we have the wells itself?
Which slide do you
Oh,
recall?
sorry. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I have it in my mind.
Is it the schematics?
Yeah, well, it's the where we're showing all those like spaghetti wells with all the different candidate selection. Let me see, I think so, slide 32. Yeah, so with that, we took in consideration that potential risk, and that's why we would like to have, if you see there, number 1, basically it's all surrounding oxy wells. So if we have any gas potentially going into the Second Bone Springs due to a frac to other wells, production might go or gas might go into oxy wells around it.
So
But
then
the-
you could be losing gas. Some of your injection gas could be lost to other wells. And
there's a potential, yes.
okay.
And that's part of the pilot. That's why we want to understand, is it gas going into the other wells or not, or maintained between the 2 fracs that we have between production and injection? And how much and what is the quantity? And that's why we're having all this telemetry on this well downhole to understand all that piece.
Okay. So then I guess the volume of gas that you're injecting, the 1.5 to 3 million standard cubic feet a day, that will not be balanced by the offtake from the candidate well alone. Some of that gas could benefit other wells in the pool.
In the Second Bone Springs, correct, it might.
So then how is this, I guess, configuration beneficial?
In terms
of proving that the intra-well miscibility is successful, if you're injecting more gas than if you're over voiding the reservoir and injecting more gas than the equivalent volume of oil, gas, and water being produced from the candidate well, how do you judge success?
Yeah, success. Can we go to the production plot, please, Adam? And yeah, oh, I think so. You passed it. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, there you go. So this is what we're looking at, right? And if we're not following basically this production profile, we know that some of the gas, plus we have telemetry at the bottom of these wells, and we'll do a mass balance. And at that point, we will know how effective actually the flood is. And one of the outcomes of this project is we might terminate the project before actually getting into the 48 months.
So you would say then that if your production profile doesn't mimic what you show here,
yeah,
that would be considered a failure of this particular technology.
Correct. So, but we're looking not specifically, we have a range as well, right? So this is the I would call it the P50 of that range. And we'll look into that range just to see if we're following that range in comparison to potential future economics. So if it's not following that range, we'll terminate the project and deem it unsuccessful. Or we'll reset back again, rethink back again how we want to proceed going on forward on this project, right? So hopefully it's successful, but if not, we'll keep on working it how to make it successful.
Okay, and I guess while we're looking at this plot, the red line is your incremental gas rate.
Excuse me, could I interrupt you for just a moment? I'd like to take a 5-minute break. Most people here haven't had lunch, and I'd just like to take a 5-minute break, and maybe we can talk offline and see how much longer your questions might be going.
Probably about 10 more minutes at most.
All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back on the record at that time. Thank you. We're off the record. We're back on the record. It is, my computer's off, so I can't tell you. Oh, here we go. I'm not sure what time it is. Give me a moment.
144.
1:44. We're going to take a little lunch break at this time. Because after speaking with Mr. Harris and Mr. Michael, and I know that you're going to want to ask some questions to rehabilitate most likely your witnesses, depending on what you've heard during this cross-examination. We're going to take a little lunch break. Now, Mr. Rankin and Ms. Vance, I know that you don't work here, so you have to travel for lunch and come back. What time, how much lunchtime do you need?
I have a call at 2. I don't know how long that'll take. I'll have to be whatever it is, but I think if we could do 45 minutes, I
Okay.
guess that might be good.
Okay. So then at 2:30, we'll come back on the record at 2:30.
Yeah.
And feel free if you need to bring something with you and have it here, Ms. Vance. Well, no, really, I mean, this is going on longer than we expected. And I don't want you to be uncomfortable. So there you have it. Okay,
Thank you.
we're off the record until 2:30. Thank you. Is the recording still going? All right, good. Do we have our court reporter back? I don't. I don't. Court reporter, are you with us? Mata E, do you know who it is by any chance? She is here. Okay, very good. All right. Okay, it is 2:33. We're back on the record. We have Mr. Harris, our technical examiner, asking the panel questions. Mr. Harris, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Just a question regarding the reservoir. How do you classify this reservoir? Is it an oil reservoir or a gas reservoir?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, Mr. Examiner, this is classified as an oil reservoir in the Bone Spring oil pool.
Okay, thank you. And so in terms of your current reservoir pressure, are you, with respect to the bubble point, are you above or below the bubble point?
Ed, do you want to go ahead and take that?
Yeah, so we're above, basically bubble point. On unconventionals, you tend to be above bubble point itself.
Above bubble point, so no
Yeah.
free gas within the reservoir.
Well, no, you're breaking gas from the reservoir.
So you are below bubble point.
Below bubble. Yeah, I'll rectify the record. Below bubble point. Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you refer to this project as a intra-well miscibility project, and just the term miscibility in itself, that implies that you're going to be increasing the reservoir pressure to achieve miscibility. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And that's the calculation of the 6,000 pounds of bottom hole pressure. Yeah, that's what we would like to achieve, 6,000 pounds. Correct.
Okay, so you need 6,000 pounds to achieve miscibility.
Mhm.
So then your application is quite vague, to be honest. There's a lot of details missing in it. It's very difficult to make an assessment here of the voidage, for lack of a better word, the voidage balance or imbalance in the reservoir. Because some preliminary calculations that I did suggest that you're injecting more fluid, more gas into the reservoir than the equivalent volume that's being off-taken from the pilot project well. So as a result of that imbalance, I mean, is there any potential, or I guess there is potential to displace oil down dip and potential have waste? Is that correct?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. So that would be a reservoir team that has to answer that question.
So fair enough. So those are the type of details that, when I say vague, those are the type of details we need to understand, because I guess if we could go to the logs on on slide 83. Just give me one moment. So if we look at those logs below the Bone Springs, is the curve in green? Is that your resistivity curve?
Yes.
Okay. So as we look below the injection zone, you see you move into the third Bone Springs limestone, your resistivity decreases. Is that indicative of a transition zone leading into a water wet zone?
No, for unconventional reservoirs, this is not the case.
Okay. So there's no free water associated with this reservoir?
This is an unconventional reservoir where we don't have conventional water, oil, gas contacts.
Fair enough.
Ms. Noonan, would you
So-
speak a little louder, please?
This is a unconventional reservoir where we do not have conventional water, oil, gas contacts as would normally be indicated by a resistivity log.
So then, is there potential if you're injecting more gas into the reservoir than the equivalent offtake volume for this intra-well project that is the focus? If you're injecting more than you're off-taking, or than is being taken off, and if we go to the next slide on page 84, your reservoir dips to the east. Could you be displacing oil down dip and therefore creating a situation where it's waste and not recoverable?
The idea for me would be the gas would follow the path of least resistance, so the lower pressure zones, so that would be up dip. But probably before that prefer any depletion in the fractures of the wells.
So I guess, without belaboring the point, we basically need more information to make a true assessment of what's occurring here, because your entire package suggests that it's a one well intramiscibility project, but the fact that you're injecting more gas than is being extracted from that well in terms of equivalent reservoir volume in situ, there is a potential for waste, and that has to be addressed. So I guess, Mr. Hearing Examiner, would it be okay for us to supply a list of items after this hearing that we want to see in terms of a follow-up package, supplemental package?
Let me go to Mr. Rankin. Mr. Rankin?
Of course, we would like to hear what more the division would request from Oxy. But I wonder if there's an opportunity still to redirect and maybe address some of those questions on redirect. Not that it's going to cover everything that Mr. Harris has asked, but at the end of the hearing, I think once the hearing is complete, would be more than willing to consider what the division would like to see in terms of supplemental information.
It sounds to me, Mr. Rankin, as though this hearing will end up being continued to another date to basically wait to receive this information that the division wants, let the technical reviewers do their job, and then come back and ask some more questions at that time. So I leave it up to you if you think it's better to redirect to redirect at this time. Please. Otherwise, we can get a list now from the technical examiners and then come back on the record, and then you can see where that leads. So how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I think if Mr. Harris is done, Examiner Harris is done with his questions, I think then I would prefer to have his list of questions, be able to go back, prepare the responses, and then present additional supplemental testimony, and then if there's further questions, be able to redirect at that point.
And maybe what we can do, Mr. Rankin, is get some self-affirmed statements that specifically go to the questions so that we have it in the record, their full answer, so that they feel like they've been heard, both in writing and in summary at the next hearing. So, Mr. Harris, are you finished with your questions, and are you ready to give me a list of what you want?
I would need some time to provide a list to fully address what we need to see, and I'd like to consult with Million and other members of the team who may have additional questions. So is it necessary that they be provided right now, or could we follow up later this week?
I think so, Mr. Rankin.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the mercy of the division. So we would like to be able to see those questions and have consensus from the division on what those are. And then once we see them, we'll know better how much time we would need to prepare the information. And I would communicate with you and the division offline on that. And then we can reset this for another date once we have a determination how long it'll take us to prepare it all.
Mr. Geber-Michael and Mr. Harris, it was my understanding that you wanted additional information, not so much that you had additional questions. I know you both have additional questions, but are there exhibits that you want Oxy to submit in addition to maybe some questions that you would like to have answered? Mr. Geber-Michael? Put your microphone on.
I think what Tony said is we will present our questions, and then that will give them enough time to, so they could judge how long it's going to take. So we're going to present our questions in writing.
And some of the answers may be, to your questions, may be in the form of exhibits as well as testimony.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Will you turn your microphone?
Yeah, so just to clarify, what we'd be looking for is we'd like to see an accounting of the material balance or the voidage replacement ratios to understand whether the gas that you're injecting is confined just to the drainage radius of your intra-well of your pilot well, or does it go beyond the drainage radius of that well and provide an interference effect on your offset producing wells. So what would be required is a full understanding of your reservoir parameters, such as your bubble point pressures, your current reservoir pressure, your oil formation volume factors, your gas formation volume factors, and then relate all your volumes to in situ reservoir conditions, so that we have a full assessment of what's actually occurring in the reservoir in terms of phase behavior and displacement mechanisms.
Tony, we could present those questions in terms of writing, and then that's okay with you. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yep. I was just trying to set the context of what effectively we're looking for here.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I think at this point, we're not going to be, we don't have anything more productive to do today. I want to thank the witnesses for their appearance. Mr. Rankin, thank you for your preparation. Mr. Harris and Mr. Geber-Michael, for your review of this extremely technical and involved data. Mr. Geber-Michael, when do you anticipate having a list of either additional exhibits and information and/or questions that you want answered at the next hearing? How long do you want to formulate that list?
Maybe I want to add Tony into this decision-making. Tony, we should be able to compose our questions within 2 weeks, right? Within a week or time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So just within 1 week.
1 week from today?
Yes.
All right. So today is the 9th. So we will provide counsel for Oxy the additional information, either in the form of additional exhibits or questions to be answered within 1 week from today. Do you want to discuss a possible new hearing date, Mr. Rankin?
Yes. If we get the questions a week from today, I think the next docket would be the 23rd. Is that right?
I don't necessarily need to be on a docket. We can do a special docket because we have Mr. Harris and Mr. Geber-Michael. We know who our technical examiners are, and I want to give Oxy the preference to move this along.
Yeah, without seeing the list and knowing what the work will be involved, this was really hard to say. So I think I'd have to have that list of questions, confer with the Oxy team, and then get back to you. I think I would expect that we probably could get back to you within a week of receiving the list of questions. So I think by the 30th, by the 23rd, we should be able to give you an idea of how long it would take us to put together the materials. So
Now, we do have a special docket on the 4th of February. I wonder whether we could add this to that docket. So let me power up my computer now that it's fixed. And take a look at the hearings module. Give me 1 minute. It's coming. It's coming. Oh, it's under Daniel. There we go. Okay, on the 4th of February, I show that we have we have some contested hearings between Flat Creek. Of course, we just heard today that most of those Flat Creek cases are going away with the exception of possibly one of them. And then we have another hearing, which is basically a good cause hearing. This is on the Alpha Energy. So I don't think that case will go very long. So why don't we add this case as a trailing docket to the February 4? If that doesn't work for you, let me know. Okay. But in the next week or two, would you continue this case to the February 4 docket? And you can, I don't know if you're the one who selects it, but you can keep it as a hearing by affidavit. I don't know who selects the status. Okay. If it's not you, I'll make sure it's properly noted. But February 4 should give you enough time. It's almost a month from now. And if you have the questions in a week, if that's not enough time, just tell me.
We'll find out.
Right, just tell me. Okay. And it'll be the last case we hear on that trailing docket, but it's not a long, these are not complicated cases that are on there. Okay. 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 Is there anything else before we go off the record?
No.
Okay. All right. Then thank you, everyone. It is 2:50 p.m. We are now off the record. We are in recess in this case. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.